If you're earning an okay salary, but you don't know what to do with your money and you feel like you get to the end of the month and you have nothing to show for it, this video is for you. Most people think the problem is that they don't earn enough, but actually it's we were never taught what we were to do with our money once it hits our bank account. I'm gonna walk you through the exact 5-step system that you should use to manage your money. Because yes, the order matters. Skip a step and the whole thing falls apart. By the end of this video, you're gonna know precisely what to do with your money, where it should be going. And for the first time, you're actually gonna feel like you're doing it right. So let's look at the 5 money management steps. So we start with step 1, which is make a spending plan. This is your source of truth for your finances. This is where every single dollar, euro, pound is going. So I like to use the 50-30-20 rule. So that's 50% for essential expenses, 30% for fun costs, and 20% for saving and investing. And I pay myself first, the 20%, which we'll come on to in a bit. The 50% is obviously like rent and bills, and then 30% is money that I can spend on whatever I want, guilt free. I have a free budget tracker that I personally use and I love. So I've left the link in the description below. It should be the first line in the description box. I also help some clients manage their money using the budget tracker and using these steps. So if you go to alicetheaccountant.com and you fancy a consultation, then you can book it through there. Step 2 is a 1,000 euro, dollar, pound emergency fund. This will give you peace of mind. So you do this before you pay off any debt. You do this before you start saving properly or investing. If you've already got this, then obviously you can skip this step. But step 1 is definitely essential to start with. So this 1,000 starter emergency fund, it gives you peace of mind. If anything happens, you can cover it. And it means that you can cover any unplanned expenses. A top tip here to be able to save this 1,000 is automate your savings. So when you get paid, plan to save each month. Even if this is 200 a month, it'll take 5 months to save for your starter emergency fund. But make sure you have this automated every month. It comes out of your paycheck so that willpower is not required. Okay, let's move on to step 3, which is pay off any high interest debt over 7%. So I like the 7% rule because the 7% rule is typically more than what you would get in the stock market, right? So the average returns in the stock market is like 8 to 10. So any debt that kind of exceeds 7% should be paid off before investing. So this is debt like car loans, credit cards, and bank loans. This should be paid off at this point because we want to get rid of any high interest debt as quickly as possible. Not only does it weigh down on our minds, but it's also really expensive. The amount of money that we pay in interest here is crazy. Step 4 and step 5, I like to do in conjunction with each other, but I'll separate them out for now. So step 4 is build your emergency fund. So this is 3 to 6 months of expenses. So this is your essential expenses, the 50% that we mentioned in step 1. So say your rent, bills and groceries is 1,000 a month, then you want to save 3 to 6,000 euro, pounds, dollars for your fully fledged emergency fund. The amount depends on your personal situation. So I would say if you're renting, if you have a really stable job, 3 months is enough. But if you're a freelancer, you've got kids, you want to be looking at 6 months plus. Again, this is important for psychological safety and confidence. Step 5 is investing. And the reason that I like to do 4 and 5 in conjunction is because it might take someone a really long time to save for that fully fledged emergency fund. And that could be years of missing out on returns in the stock market. So for example, if you want to save 5,000 in your starter emergency fund and you are able to save 20% of your income per month, and let's say 20% of your income per month is 500, you can put 250 towards your fully fledged emergency fund and 250 towards investing. Doing those two things at the same time builds up your safety net, increases your confidence, but it also makes sure that you're getting into the market early and your returns in the future will be much higher, because it's really, really important to invest as soon as possible. There's a lot of examples of this. Essentially, it's 2 people one person invests at 35 and one person invests at 25. The person that invests at 35, even if they put more money in than the 25-year-old over the whole period of time, this person puts in more money than this person. The person that put less money in will still retire with a lot more money because they started 10 years earlier. So it's super important to just start early. And that's why I like to do these two steps at the same time. Okay, going back to step 5, investing. Investing is amazing. I love investing, but I'm going to talk through the simple way to invest. No complications and no jargon. I want you to invest in this priority order. 1, pension. Max out your pension. This is because it's a tax advantaged account. It's the best way to be able to save for your future without getting taxed now. In Europe, this is particularly important because you don't have things like ISAs and Roth IRAs like in the US. In Europe, this is particularly important because there's not a lot of other tax advantaged accounts and tax can be quite high on capital gains. So max out your pension. If you're in the US, this would be your 401k. Priority order number 2, this will be your tax advantaged accounts. So this will be ISAs. In the UK, you have cash ISAs, but no, we're looking at stocks and shares ISAs. This will be Roth IRAs in the US. If you're in Europe, step 2, skip, because unfortunately these don't exist. Okay, and then step 3 in this priority order is invest in the stock market. Invest in index funds. So if you don't know what an index fund is, think of a bag of Skittles. The bag of Skittles is the index fund and each Skittle represents a different company. So in the UK, you have the FTSE 100, which is the top 100 companies in the UK. This can be in all different sectors. You invest in the FTSE 100, you're investing a little piece of each of those companies. Why is that good? Well, it's diversified, less risk. As long as the economy is growing, that index fund is growing over the long term. So it's a great long-term investment. I don't recommend stock picking. Even the professionals usually lose when they're stock picking. So index funds has always been the best way. Warren Buffett, who's the investing expert, he knows that investing index funds are the way to go because they outperform any stockbroker who is trying to invest in individual funds. So that's good news for you. It means you don't have to do your research and spend a load of time. You just need to automate a few hundred per month or whatever 20% of your salary is, or 10% if you're still building your emergency fund, and just put it in there and leave it and don't look at it and keep it in there for the long term. Some people ask me, what about buying a house? If you want to buy a house in the next 5 years, I recommend saving it in something like a cash ISA or a high yield savings account that produces about 4 to 5%. I personally invested in the stock market. As the stock market was at a high, I made quite a big gain and I sold a lot of my shares so that I could buy a house. But that might not be the case for you. So if you want to buy a house in the next couple of years, things are a little rocky in the economy right now. I would only invest what you're willing to keep for the long term. My top tip with investing is to find an app that you like. So I really like Trading 212, eToro, Revolut, and it's very easy to just pick the FTSE 100, pick an index fund, deposit money, put 200 in, and then invest each month. You can automate the deposits into your account to be monthly, but you will have to go in there and choose the index fund each month to actually invest the money in the stock. You can see here the annual returns for the S&P 500 index fund since 1950. It looks like we've had some ups, we've had some downs, but let's look at those returns now on a line graph. We can see over the long term, it has gone up dramatically. And if we want to look at an example, say we put in 500 per month, and we're going to look at what is the return over 30 years with 8% interest. Despite the fact that we only put in 180,000, the value would be 679,699. But let's just add another 10 years on there, which would be 500 times 12 times 10. Work that out. But it would be about 1,000 more money. But that money would go to 1.5 million because of compound interest. Look, these last 10 years grow very quickly. What do I recommend investing in overall? So I really like this 80-10-10 rule. This is 80% index funds, 10% individual stocks, and 10% bonds. I personally don't really bother with bonds that much. I like gold in this regard because I feel like gold is kind of safe. So I like to do a gold ETF here. But the typical advice is bonds/cash. And then as you get older, you get closer to retirement, your risk tolerance goes down and the bonds and cash goes up and your stocks go down. But I think for most people that watch my videos and are in my audience in their 20s, 30s, 40s, we want to do like 80, 90% gold and index funds. And then we want to do 10% as like fund money to invest in individual stocks. This is high risk, high return, but it is fun. Don't invest any money that you don't want to lose. But I also have to be honest with you, I've made some really great gains from my individual stocks investing in tech companies, for example. So that's my 5-step money system. 1, make a spending plan. 2, a starter emergency fund. 3, pay off debt. 4, a full emergency fund. And 5, investing. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, subscribe and comment. It would help me so much and I would really appreciate it because that would really help this channel. I am thriving with my consultations and social media, but I feel like growth on YouTube is a little slow. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.